English. I'm going to speak English because I want to make some things clear. Italian, the fourth studied language in the world. Come on, be serious. Let's be serious. That's not true. I mean, my experience in language exchange, websites and situations, Italian is a language that people like to show off and on their website, like language that I practice. There's many times there is Italian. I tell you, 99% of these people cannot speak a word of Italian, or their knowledge is so basic that they are absolute beginners. I'm a little bit exaggerating, but to make things clear, Italian is a language that people would like to know, ideally, but don't have the time and the will and the constance to really speak. Italian is not a language that people take for granted that you speak well, so there's no peer pressure to speak well. Giving an example, why people, all in all, people who learn English attain a higher level, not because English is easier. English and Italian, I don't know which one is more difficult. Those languages are difficult in different ways. Italian is more morphology. English is more the usage of verbs. The writing, the spelling, and the pronunciation is surely more difficult than Italian. Sometimes Italian is straightforward, use of present perfect is very easy in Italian, it's quite complicated in English, and it's different in American English. I'd say that Italian for sure is not the fourth studied language in the world if we take into account the level. What is the point when you can say, oh, this is a studied language? The fact that people claim they learn Italian, oh hell, oh yes, if we take for granted what people write and say is the truth, maybe it's the fourth language, but the reality is another kettle of fish. That's my experience as a person who tried to have language exchange, and I should upload another video, because the truth about learning languages is far from what people say. The reality is more crude, it's more bleak, how to put it, it's very bad. People try to learn languages, for the most part they don't succeed. On the other part, there are people who show off on the internet pretending they know many languages. Many of them actually have a good accent because they have the good ear for languages, and it's easier to upload a video where you speak quite well from the phonetical point of view, but speaking a language fluently is very difficult. I've been studying Turkish for nearly more 1.5 years. My level is so low. Okay, I haven't been practicing or as much as I would have liked to, but I'm speaking about languages is quite different, because many times we are spoiled. We learn languages that are easy because vocabulary is similar, the structure of the language is similar, because in the same branch in European languages they have a structure that is very similar, so we have no idea about the fact that languages can be very different, and consequently they can be very difficult, but on the other side they can open your mind. It can the fact that you are learning a language and you're absorbing, better said, I always say the language are absorbed rather than learned, because learning gives the idea of a classical way of acquiring knowledge. Language is more an ability, and you don't study one ability, you learn on the ground, so to speak. So I'd say that Italian if my volume is right. Yes, it's quite... Italian is a language that there's no... I mean, even if you speak a little bit, you think you are very good. That happens a lot for minority language, not so important languages, and people are... The level I heard people trying to speak Italian, the pronunciation, the grammar, and everything is so crappy. Even with English happens, but you know, I think English happens better because there are more people who are learning English, so there are more beginners. So you can, but when you learn English, there's more motivation because you really need it. You would say the opposite. Okay, but you learning a language is not really useful. So if a person's learns it, he wants to be good. Actually, that should be, but that's not the case. People who learn Italian, many people. One thing, add Italian because they learn other Latinate languages, and that's the collection syndrome. I have the same thing when it comes to brass instrument. I play the trombone, but every instrument is different. Even my trumpet is different from my trombone, my valve trombone is different from my slide trombone, and if you take things lightly, you end up playing badly many instruments. The difference is that you don't need to be a trombone player or a trumpet player to notice that the person is playing badly. When it comes to languages, unless you really speak the languages that the other person is speaking, you listen just to the accent. The accent many times is different because this person has acquired a different phonetical system and doesn't sound like he's speaking the language you already know, but you cannot tell unless you really know the language. So this impression they give, they really speak the language well. I always say that I can hear many people and I can judge when they speak Greek, when they speak English, and when they speak Italian. So, and many times their Greek is bad, their Italian is bad, and English is quite better because the people learn English. They tend to learn English better, not because English is easier. I don't think English is easier at all than Italian. It's just, as I said before, different. It's difficult in a different way. Some things that are easy in Italian are different in English. But all in all, English is a language that is much more complicated than people think. Italian would be easier to spell, easier all in all to pronounce than English. But it has other difficulties concerning the verbal system and other things. Other things, a language that is difficult in itself. It's not necessarily a better language. Turkish is difficult for us who speak, for people who speak an Indo-European language. Would I say that Turkey is a difficult language all in all? No. Why? Because doesn't have many strange sounds. It has sounds that many times are common sounds, not all of them. It's quite it's not a language it's quite a regular language. No language is completely regular. All in all, the verbal system and everything is quite more regular than English and Italian. Obviously, for us, it's difficult because it's not a Indo-European language, so the structure of the sentence is completely different. Many words, most of the words are completely unfamiliar to us. So the starting point was, is Italian an easy language? Is Italian the fourth language in the world concerning people who learn it? In the reality, not at all. Maybe people claim that, but my experience is that you cannot take their word for it. I mean, people like the idea they can speak Italian. I heard things in Italian that make your hair stand on end. I mean, come on, be serious. You cannot learn a language without a huge exposure to the language. When you adventure in trying to make sentences, I'd say 90% of the cases you make wrong sentences. So you're always getting out on a limb, and at the end of the day, if you have feedback from native speakers, you will get frustrated because you say, okay, whatever I say it's wrong. It's normal it's wrong, because unless you have samples of real language from which you can have an input and then use as a template when you speak. Language are not logical at all. Many things that are theoretically possible and make perfect sense on paper are not what people use when they really speak. So I'd say I have some opinions that go against the grain of what people say on the internet. First of all, to really speak on average a language quite fluently, I mean, let's say the way I'm speaking English now, it takes 4 or 5 years, depending on the language, depending on the time, average. Take into account that you after 4 years of being exposed to the language every day in context where you can understand, using a textbook at the beginning, the first year, you absorb it, you use the audio part, and you're not just reading, and you take notes, pay attention to corrections. You really are a committed person. Half an hour, 1 hour a day. Half an hour is the minimum. 1 hour a day. I think that at the beginning you start from even 15 minutes and you end up being exposed to the language up to 2 hours a day. How? Well, I use, you can listen to language when you walk, when you drive your car, and when you do other things, not necessarily, you know, I usually learn things and try to read several times, and then I listen to that things, to those things, those recordings several times until they are part of my subconscious mind. So I'd say go very slowly, be progressive. So use a textbook. This is progressive. Use a textbook that with the recordings, with the audio part, with an audio part. Don't try the same thing to speed up things, to speed things up. No, be quite patient. If the language you're learning is quite different, if you speak an Indo-European language, different languages are all known Indo-European languages, all Asian languages except some Indian languages are Farsi, which is the language of Iran, or some language of Afghanistan are Indo-European languages. But all the other languages are non-European, so Turkish is on the verge. It's not as difficult, I think, as Arabic because of the script, because of other things, but I'd say Turkish is on the verge. It's one of the easiest languages among the difficult ones. Okay, but languages like Japanese, quite difficult. Korean, I think, is even more difficult for us. I'm partial. I speak Italian and English and Greek, so that's my point of view concerning the pronunciation. Maybe if you speak Hungarian, you speak Finnish, or you speak other languages, it's not that difficult. But for us, Surely Korean, from the point of view of sounds, is more difficult than Japanese, but Chinese is more difficult for us than Japanese and Korean. If you take into account the script or the ideogram, Chinese is terrible, Korean and Chinese is terrible, Korean and Japanese are easier. Arabic, I don't know. I don't know the grammar of Arabic. I have no idea. But the script is okay. It's difficult, not as Chinese, because it's after all is an alphabet, which means every symbol matches a sound more or less, but there are no vowels. I'm not much into Arabic, but I think Arabic is quite more easy than Chinese. I don't know as opposed to Japanese, but sounds are quite difficult to me, not as a Chinese, but quite guttural. That's why Turkish is easier. These languages are not for the faint of hearts, I'd say. Those are languages for people who are ready to pour over, are ready to wait, are not easily discouraged. Those are languages for stubborn people who are really committed. If you want to dabble, or you want to just to have a go and you have to have fun, those are not the languages for you. That's what I think. I'm not into African language. I have no idea, or usually, okay, there's Swahili, that is quite, important. Then there is Somali, Ethiopian, Eritrea. These are languages you can actually learn. Other languages, no material. Okay, there are other languages like Wolof, but it's very strange. It's very difficult to find a lot of material. Also difficult to find other people to speak with. And I'd say learn a language that you can actually speak. Oh, you say, well, you're in Italy, you're learning Turkish. Yes, but disregarding this craze going on about virus, if hoping things clear up, Turkey is not extremely far, since I speak Greek, and when I'm in Greece I can easily access. There is a border with Turkey. It's a language that is spoken by, at least in Turkey, 80 million people. That is not a small amount of people. Obviously, there is another thing. Now I'm there is an idiom in English. The problem of learning similar languages. First of all, I noticed that however much people say those languages are similar, they're never similar as we think. Italian and Spanish are not that similar. Even common things can be very difficult. There is an amount of mutual intelligibility. Is there this word? Comprehension. But take into account, we're speaking about people who have Spanish and Italian as their native language. So if you learn Italian, Italian will never be your native language. So the comprehension of the similar language will be less. And since Italian is not your first language, you will be confused. What does it mean? If an Italian learns Spanish or vice versa, they have a steady ground concerning their native language, so they know what is right in Italian, and they have no doubt, because they've been speaking the language since they were born. For a foreigner, you will end up being extremely confused. I remember when I was learning Portuguese, and the worst speakers, the worst learners of Portuguese were those ones who were learning Spanish. And you say, why? Spanish is closer to Portuguese than Italian. Yes, and there lies the rub. They got confused. They take things for granted. So many times similar languages are a double-edged sword. So I say, I personally don't go for similar languages. I want to experience, I want to have the whole foreign experience. I mean, if I learn Turkish, learning Azeri can be, you are curious. That's a similar language, and you can watch some videos. I watched some videos about the differences. But learning a language, another language very similar, is really a problem. So I'd say my idea is I speak 3 languages fluently, not on the same level. I think I live in Italy. The most fluent language I speak is Italian. Very close to Italian is English. A little bit down is Greek. I speak, but I don't know. I speak Greek very fluently. I watch videos, understand nearly everything. But I'd say if I have to name object or animal or use idioms, I'm not as fluent as I am in Italian and in English. But I've been speaking English for 36 Greek for 36 years. So common language is inside me. I don't have to think to understand. I don't have to think when I have to speak. But I'm conscious of the fact that my level is not. And Turkish is even so. Not many languages. Some people like learning. I know. You know why? Because I play different instruments. You can see all the recorders here, and I play the trombone. And I know that you have to put time into everything you do. If you have another job, unluckily I only know how to speak languages and play instruments, so I don't have anything else. But even doing this, time for the trombone, time for the trumpet, time for the guitar, time for my singing skills, and I have to play the trombone, and then I watch. I always use English, because I know if I don't use English, okay, I know English, but you always forget. You forget even your own native language. I know when I was in America, my Italian was not as fluent as it is now in Italy. So don't take for granted that once you know the language, okay, I'm done, I can understand another language. No, you have to keep the language alive. Even if your language is very good, I know that even in my own language, this Italian, I always know new words, and I know other people that don't know as many words as I do, because we have to cultivate even our own native language. And many times, learning a foreign language makes me even know more about my own language, because I bump into new words, and I look and I have to learn these words, and these words maybe are common in another language, and the Italian, the Italian counterpart, the translation. So you sometimes you deepen the knowledge of your own language. So don't disregard your own language. That is what you are, and everybody has to be proud of the language they speak. And many times people are so into the new language, but you have to respect the sounds of the language you're learning, the structures. Don't make a mess. Don't mangle. No. there's another verb. You see, you always forget words. What is the word in Italian? I forgot. No. Mole. Why you say mole? Mango. Mole. A mole, not a mole. I invented a verb in English. You mangled. Yeah, it gives the idea. No, it doesn't exist. Does it exist? Maybe it exists, but with a different meaning. Yes, it exists, but I meant storpiare, yes. Mangle is storpiare, which makes sense. It exists, but I wanted to say massacra, no, sbrana. Anyway, I made a mess. Mangle, it was, I used it the right way, but I meant, okay, don't make a mess of the language you're learning now. I'm correcting myself when I say the right thing. Sometimes words comes from our subconscious, and when you speak a language without thinking, without preparing grammatically the words, it means it's obvious. It takes years. But if you do it every day, you will develop this ability in a subconscious way. So you don't make a real tedious conscious effort. The only thing you have to do is to constantly make time for for the language. So at the beginning it will be difficult, and in time you will start understanding the language and you start speaking, and everything falls into place, and it would be a pleasure. I'm sorry, I like the sound of my voice when I speak a foreign language, when I don't mangle it. But anyways, I really like. I have a deep love for English. I have a deep respect for English. That's why I'm exposed to English every day. I try to learn new words. I try everything. I'm not into showing off on the internet. What I'm showing off is my knowledge, deep knowledge of mental processes when we're learning a foreign language. I have a huge experience both as a learner and as a teacher is a bad word. I'm someone who, more like a coach. I think when you learn a foreign language, you need somebody who puts you on the right path rather than really teaching you things, because it would be very expensive to have some. It can happen if you have a boyfriend, or you live with somebody who speaks foreign language, who use it. Okay, but for most cases, a language teacher helps you, sees if you are doing the right things, how you go about learning a foreign language, and the teacher should not only be a native speaker of a language, should be someone who knows how languages are acquired. So it should be someone who has really acquired one or two foreign language on a very high level. Don't trust any teacher, even an English teacher who just speaks English. He has no fucking idea how languages are learned. So he can only speak his language or her language, which is, anyone can do it if you are an English speaker. So you wouldn't pay anyone a lot of money for doing something that even a fucking stupid person can do, like speaking their own native language. Okay? So many people pretend to be teachers only on web application. They are not teachers. They don't know. Many times are people who just speak the language and want to earn, do want to make some money the easy way, just doing something you you haven't been doing anything to learn it, okay, other than being raised in a country where they speak that language. Okay, that was a long-winded video, but I had to make some things clear because I see on the web a lot of bullshit. People who learn language to show off, people who don't care about really learning the language, people only care about what they can show on videos, and that doesn't represent the real knowledge of the language. Be humble. I'm learning Turkish. I haven't uploaded one video where I speak Turkish because I think that's something for me. I'm learning Turkish because I always like the idea. For some reasons, I like I speak Greek, and Greek have a lot of dealings with Turkish people, influence on the language. Even if Greek people hate Turkish people more than vice versa, but that's another story. And I like a lot of things about Turkey. So I like the language, I like the culture, I like the food, even if I never been to Turkey. But I really like that it is a big country. I can visit. I mean, I'm quite motivated, but I don't want to. Oh, you speak Turkish. Oh, you're learning Turkish, such a difficult language. I don't give a shit. I like Turkish because it's difficult, because it exposes me to a different way of thinking, and that I like it a lot. It's very refreshing when you speak a language that is really different. You are going whole hog. You're not learning a language it's different only by 30 or 50%. You're learning a language which is difficult by 90%. But I can understand that people can. I can understand people can learn a language in the European or a similar language. That in some ways can even be more difficult, because if you want to speak properly, it's more difficult because you can be confused. But if you want only to have a working knowledge, to get understood, disregarding being precise, okay, it's easier. It's easier for an Italian to understand Spanish, Portuguese, French, in a lesser way Romanian. Romanian is not as similar to Italian as people think. No, it's not. Really, you don't understand Romanian if you speak Italian. You can understand some things written, some words when they speak, because some words are really similar, but there are many words that are completely different and the pronunciation is different. So no, it's a myth that Italian can understand Romanian. Actually, I could say that Romanian understand better Italian and vice versa, because not every time is the same. For example, Portuguese people from Portugal understand more Spanish people than vice versa. Okay, that's it. I will upload other videos about this subject. Goodbye.